Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show.
If you talk to any cop, they'll tell you that a body that has been found, unidentified body, and a missing person are two of the most difficult cases to solve because there is effort being made to specifically hide the identity of the person. And hence, unless it's a very high profile case, they're not going to give it their all in that sense. So to have a cop who even after retirement is looking for this girl is something that I have never heard of, I mean, the kind of things that have happened to this case are really, like in a sense unheard of.
That's Indian Express's Mohamad Thaver. He reports on crime for the Mumbai Bureau. And the case he's talking about is that of Pooja Gaud, a girl who went missing in 2013, nearly 10 years ago, and who was reunited with her family on Thursday. And in many ways, this could only happen because of a cop who just did not stop looking for her. Even after he retired, and even after pretty much everyone had lost hope. His name is Rajendra Bhosale. And in this episode of the Three Things podcast, we tell you the story of Pooja, how she went missing, how she was found, and of course, Rajendra Bhosale's relentless search for her. Now, to understand this story, we first go back to 2015, 2 years after Pooja first went missing. That's when Smita Nair, who had been working with the Indian Express, was visiting a local police station in Mumbai.
This was for a case which involved a sex offender. It was a big case. They had cracked a case after, I think, 20 odd days, and I was very excited about.
She had gone there to meet the team who had solved the case. And while the meeting was going on, a cop kept interrupting the meeting.
I didn't know him then. I had no idea who this person was. He just walked in and he started talking to two of the constables who were being interviewed. And the interview had to be interrupted because he had some technical questions for them. And I realized that every 5 minutes, he would just keep walking in and keep asking questions. At first, I thought, okay, fine, this is a police station. This is where bigger cases are being handled. And obviously, a news reporter sitting right in the detection room over there and asking questions, it doesn't come in the priority list. So I was very patient in the beginning. But as the evening progressed, I realized that he had so many things to do in that detection room.
This, of course, was Assistant Sub-Inspector Rajendra Bhosale. And Smita says that what stood out to her was just how busy he was, and also the extent to which he was struggling with technology. At one point, she even saw him frustratingly talking to a computer.
Now, it's very rare to see a policeman talk to a computer. And he was all over the place. He had a lot of papers. When I asked someone what he's doing, and they said that he's updating one particular photograph into different registries across different state police. So that kind of was intriguing about what he was doing.
That photo he was uploading was that of Pooja Gaud, the girl who had been missing for 2 years.
Later, I came back to my office and I started digging into that case because I got the name Pooja and I started digging and I realized that there are quite a bit of articles on her that she's gone missing. That is when I decided that I really need to know why is this man so obsessed about this one case. I went back to the police station after a week. I had already finished the other story and I went and he wouldn't talk to me. I think I made 3 separate visits to the police station, just waiting to talk to him, but he just wouldn't.
It became clear to her that Bhosale was not interested in wasting his time by talking to a reporter. He was just obsessed with finding that little girl who had gone missing. In fact, the third time that Smita tried to visit the station to see him, she saw that he was still updating Pooja's records in different registries, apart from doing other duties that were assigned to him.
And that is when I realized that I really need to know why is this man so obsessed about this case, because I've covered crime for a decade and more. And I can tell you that this guy was different even then. That is how I think my first impression of this man is someone who is fighting time and struggling with technology, obsessed with the case, and is just all over the place. Like he's multitasking. And I found that aspect about him very fascinating.
Smita eventually found out that it was not just Pooja's case. Bhosale was obsessed with tracking every missing person's case that was reported to the police station.
From 2008 to 2013, there were a lot of kids who had gone missing. In boys, I think some 174 cases had gone missing, and he had tracked each one of them. And in the girls and in women, some 165 cases, were tracked. So he was a guy who was given the charge of missing bureau from a particular date, but he was asked to track cases from 2008, much before he was given this responsibility. So here was a man who was absolutely clear that if he has been asked to find out these many missing people, then there is no other way. He had to find them. So that is something that I learned as I started visiting the police station a couple of times.
Now let's pause and go over that detail that Smita just mentioned. Bhosale had tracked every single missing person's case that was given to him. He tracked all 174 boys that were missing and 165 out of 166 girls. Only a single missing person's case remained that he had not been able to solve. The case of girl number 166. That was Pooja Gaud. Now, as his record would show, Bhosale was really good at finding missing people. Smita says that his policing weapon of choice was walking.
He loves to walk. He walks for hours. He walks long distances. He doesn't use the police patrol or the vehicle that is given to policemen. He seldom uses the bike. He just walks. When you walk, you get to see the city in a different way. You get to meet people, you get to stop, you get to talk to people. And that is what he essentially did. He said that he would walk for like 6 hours sometimes. He would take one stretch on days and he would walk. And later on, as bandobast duties started increasing, he used the bandobast duty also as a way to kind of build confidence, gain leads. And he had a lot of informers. His favorite informers were the bakery guys, because he said that the bakery guy always gives you bread, but he's also watching you. He's also seeing what strata of society you come from. He knows where you're coming from. So he kind of started going to all the bakeries in and around his jurisdiction.
Besides bakery attendants, some of his best informers were cobblers and salon owners. In fact, once when he had almost given up on a case, it was a salon owner who helped him solve the case. But when it came to Pooja, none of his usual informers were coming in handy. He was struggling to find information. Till then, one of the few things he knew were just the details of the day that Pooja had gone missing. It had been a January morning, and the 7-year-old Pooja was on her way to school with her 10-year-old brother Rohit. They had been walking to school from their home in Andheri West. Now their grandfather would always give Pooja 5 rupees pocket money before she left for school. But that day, for some reason, the money was handed to her brother and not to her directly.
And he was being cautious, and he said that we will buy something during recess hour and let's go to school now. And that's what happened. And I think she got a little upset that the money was not handed to her and she wanted it right there. So she did walk with Rohit all the way till the school's gate, as they always do, but she did not cross it. She said that till you give me the money, I'm not going to cross it. And the school bell rang at the same time, and Rohit did not want to miss out or rather be punished for walking in late. So he did tell her that let's run. The school bell has rung. We'll be late. Let's meet at the recess hour and it'll be done. And he ran without looking back. It's that 5 to 10 minutes when she's not crossed the gate. I believe the accused has seen this child standing at the gate, and you must understand that she was very upset at that moment. So anyone offering her anything good like an ice cream or a chocolate, and it's a 7-year-old kid, would have not thought twice. Now when I look at it, I think the fact that she was upset and the fact that the accused took advantage of that really played a big role.
Based on these details, Bhosale started looking, but was not able to find anything substantive.
because he went to the school, he did a lot of interviews over there. He did not get any leads. He started talking to people around the school's gate. It's a very bustling place and it was very difficult. Anything could have happened in that critical hour. Especially it was 7:30 a.m. when she went missing. So it was difficult for him. So from what I understand, he told me about that week was that he first started finding the child's habits. What are the things she likes? What are the things she doesn't like? He started to work on that first. What are the things that she would be attracted to? So chocolates definitely was one. And he did explore places where chocolates were given. I remember him telling me this years ago. He also tried to talk and interview a lot of people who were connected to the family. But that is when he realized that things were not fitting into any of the boxes that he's seen. And that is when he realized that this was getting way bigger than what he imagined it would.
Smita says he did everything that was required, like visiting local mortuaries and going to places where trafficking was known to take place. He also kept a track of the kids begging in and around Mumbai and would sometimes take long rides in search for Pooja.
So there were a lot of common sense practices that he looked into initially. Then he also started asking the family for a list of all their relatives, and he visited many of them to try to see if he can find out any dispute in the family which could have led to this. Because in a couple of previous cases that he solved, he found that sometimes it's always a family member who's involved in getting a kid go missing. So he did all that for a few months. This did cause a lot of tension because there were times when relatives would be upset, but they would cooperate. And so this also happened. Then he started getting in touch with police of other states and he tried to find out if any details emerge which match to the age profile that he's looking at. There were a lot of calls which were also shaping up. There were prank calls which used to come to the family. You must understand that his number had gone public at that time. So there were a lot of calls that he was getting. Many of them were ransom calls. They turned out to be prank, but they would be like, I have your daughter, could you give this much money? And Bhosale never ever allowed even one single call to go unprobed. So he would try to get the number, he would get the records, he would get the different state police to help him. So he did not leave any lead. Even if others said that it could be a prank, he investigated it.
And she says that besides all these techniques that were by the book, he also did things that were very uncommon and highly unusual for a cop.
For instance, in the first 2 weeks, the missing posters were put up where police helped, but then they were not adequate. So Bhosale spent his own money, he enlarged the photo, and there was a time when you could see Pooja's posters all across.
In fact, when Smita came across these posters, she took an auto to see till what distance Pooja's posters would be there.
And I was surprised that the auto kept going towards Bandra and her photo was there way beyond. And that is when I realized that Bhosale had printed Pooja's photos, color photos, where you can see the child in a pinafore, and it was all over western suburbs. There was no way you could miss Pooja.
And she says the other important thing to note is that Bhosale was doing all this while also performing his other duties that were given to him by the police station.
Because you must understand that they are also supposed to do security drills, they are also supposed to do bandobast, they are also supposed to present themselves in other cases in court. So he was doing all that. In fact, once I remember he told me that during festivals after bandobast, what he would do is he would just change quickly into plain clothes and he would just go around town looking at all the places where music was blaring because Pooja loved to dance. So he would try to see if any kids, if any beggar kids or if any other kids are, dancing on the streets. And it's remarkable how he would think what are the places that she would be found. And he would always be in plain clothes in the evening just before going home, or if his shift is in a different shift, he would make sure that he would go as a friend to the family and not just as a police officer. So there were days that he would visit them in civil clothes because he realized that every time visiting them in uniform was not making them comfortable. And I remember her father telling me that he's never ever seen anyone so dedicated because They would also see that he's coming and spending time with them. It's not just coming there for 15 minutes and leaving. He would be a participant to their grief, and he suddenly would also tell them some leads that they would have to help him with. So on one hand, he was a police officer, but on the other, he was also human. I think that is what makes him different.
Bhosale kept searching for Pooja for nearly 2 years, and he really wanted to find her before he retired from service. But despite all his best efforts, that could not be possible. Smita says on the day of his retirement, he was devastated.
Because he believed that he would find her before midnight that day. And I remember this because most of the constables who I met from the police station that day did say that he wasn't at the police station. He was just out the whole day looking for her.
Of course, his search that day led to another dead end. But he did not lose hope. He kept looking for Pooja even after he retired. And Smita has actually kept in touch with him after all these years.
I remember once he called me somewhere in afternoon and I knew the drill. So I told him that, give me a minute, let me call you back. I actually kept a bottle of water next to me because I knew this was going to take long. And he just kept telling me all the leads that he thinks were not completely probed, or rather were not probed enough. And that just showed that he kept the case running in his head. And every time there was any case of trafficking that he found in the newspapers or he heard about it in the news reports, he would call instantly. Sometimes his calls would be around midnight and he would be very polite then. He would say, I'm very sorry, but did you hear this? And he would read out the details because he still doesn't have a phone which has WhatsApp. He doesn't have a smartphone. So what I'm imagining is an officer who's retired, sitting in front of a TV or reading a newspaper, keeping a notepad next to him and writing down the details, and then relaying those details to me on phone, asking me to find out whether Pooja is there in that bunch of cases that some state police might have cracked.
What is also remarkable is that despite everyone losing hope, Bhosale did not. He somehow could not get rid of the feeling that Pooja was still alive.
And I can say that because he was in the city just 5 days before she was found, and he had gone to Mahim Dargah and he had put the chadar. The Dargah is considered as the patron saint of Bombay police, and he really believed that she was still alive. And it was remarkable because I asked him that, what do you expect? And he said that I have also gone to temples and I still know that she's there. I'm just asking God to bring her in front of me. That's all I'm asking. I found that very strong.
And Bhosale's prayers were, of course, answered after a long wait of 9 years and 7 months. And turns out that Pooja was found only 500 meters away from her parents' home. When we spoke to Mohamad Thaver, who you heard at the beginning of the episode, he told us that the local police first found out about it after they received a call from Pooja's mother and paternal uncle. Her father passed away only 4 months ago.
And they called the police and they said that Pooja has been found. She is working somewhere close to us. She made a video call and we identified her as Pooja, because you also have to realize that there were a lot of people reaching out saying we know where Pooja is, but they all turned out to be, fake alerts. It was not really the case. So they told the police that, no, this time around we have seen her on the video call and she is our girl. She has given us the address where she is working. So the police team then kind of worked with the family, told her to tell the girl at around to meet them around 8:20 p.m. on Thursday. They met her below the society.
Pooja was now 16 years old and was working as a babysitter at this housing society. She came down to meet her parents on the pretext that she was taking the baby out for fresh air. That is when the police sent the family to meet her and see if she was actually Pooja. And it turned out that Pooja was able to recognize her mother, and they both broke down and started crying.
I mean, based on what the cops tell us and what her uncle told us, it was a very emotional moment. And the uncle was also, teary-eyed, telling me that she also remembered me. I thought because so much time has passed by, I didn't know. So in that sense, the girl did remember them, and it just took her kind of one glance to identify them. And no, it was obviously because of these many years. It was a very emotional moment, understandably, for the entire family. And they said that it also took them some time to even for that to sink in that such a big change has happened.
Eventually, when the police spoke to Pooja, she told them what had happened that January morning in 2013, when she had been on her way to school with her 10-year-old brother.
So, based on the version that she has given, she told the police that on that particular day, before she could enter the school, this guy, Harry D'Souza, he was also a local. So basically, Harry and his wife did not have a kid and they were very distraught by it. So he has told the police that when I saw the girl, I thought that, she can be our kid, like we can kidnap her and she can be our daughter. And as for the girl, he told her that I'll take you to get an ice cream, gets her an ice cream, then from there possibly takes her to Kalyan at this place, a dargah atop a hill. And there when she started crying and she said, "Where have you got me?" He threatened to throw her off the hill. And he said, he's going to harm her. He's going to harm her family. So she was very scared. Of course, she was 7 years old then. So, she's very intimidated. From there, he took her to Goa along with his wife. And they were there in Goa for around 2 months. Then from there, he brought her back to Virar. Then from Virar, he brought her back home. Now, what also happened is when he brought her back in Andheri, he realized that the case had got a lot of media attention. There were protest marches being carried out. So then he realized that people are going to find out about it. So then he sent her to his village, Raichur in Karnataka, where he put her in a hostel and she, I think, studied for a year over there.
So from 2013 to 2016, Pooja was in Karnataka. This is the duration when Bhosale had been searching for her in Mumbai. Now, while Pooja was in Karnataka, a major development happened. Harry D'Souza and Soni D'Souza ended up having a child together. So as fate would have it, they now had 2 girls with them. But because of this, they found it difficult to support and handle the expenses for both of them.
Paying for Pooja's hostel in Karnataka, and he also realized that it's been 3 years, her looks had changed. So then he brought her back to Mumbai. At that point of time, there were a lot of posters that the girl is missing. All those posters had kind of gone. It had been 3 years. Secondly, that the police, he felt, was not investigating it with as much vigor as they were earlier. And thirdly, her looks had changed. And the area that they lived in, the Gilbert Hill area, is a very congested area. And they felt that if they just kept her confined at their residence, they felt that they could kind of get away with it,
This is the reason they brought her back to Mumbai. Pooja has now told the police that while initially Harry D'Souza and Soni D'Souza kept her well, after they got their own daughter, they would beat her up with belts and rolling pins. She also said that sometimes when Harry would get drunk, he would accidentally reveal information about her past.
He would tell her that they had picked her up from someplace in 2013 and that they were not under the influence of alcohol. He had slipped this out a couple of times. So over a period of time, she knew that these people were not her actual parents, but she was so petrified of them that she would dare not talk to anyone and she wasn't even allowed.
Mohammed says that things changed a year back. In order to earn more money, both the kidnappers forced Pooja to work as a babysitter and got her a job in Andheri West. And while she was working there, she opened up to the maid who was working in the house.
Now, the girl says that by then she had also tried Googling 2013 kidnapping, Mumbai, things like that. And she did come across an article, some media reports about her. And she saw her own photo and she realized that, okay, this Pooja Gaud is me. They had also changed her name to Annie, the kidnappers. So she realized that this Pooja Gaud is me and I have been kidnapped from here. But then she did not know how to move forward from there. So that's when the maid came in. The maid also knew somebody. She was working at one of the houses where she told her that such and such a thing has happened, but we don't know how to connect. So that girl, she searched online and she found a missing poster which had 5 phone numbers, a Pooja Gaud missing poster. So she took a printout of that. This happened in the past few weeks. So she got the printout to them. Of the 5 numbers, 4 were not working, but the last number worked. And it was of this guy called Rafiq Sheikh, who was their neighbor.
It was Rafiq who got in touch with her parents, and that is how Pooja was eventually reunited with them. Now, Mohammed says that even though it may seem unusual, people kidnapping children because they want one is not that uncommon.
I have at least reported 5-6 such cases where the motive behind the kidnapping is because they don't have a kid. And the third is, of course, when you are selling kids to couples who don't have a kid. So it is not very uncommon for people to do that.
Now, when talking about the husband and wife, Mohammed says that since it was Harry who kidnapped Pooja and Soni who concealed the crime, the police have arrested Harry.
Now, the wife has as yet not been arrested. She will. The police did not arrest her because she also has a 6-year-old daughter and there is nobody to take care of her. So they will let her make arrangements, because at the end of the day, their daughter, she should also not suffer because of all of that. So there is where the human angle comes in. So they will, I believe, wait for them to hand over the girl to somebody else before they kind of face arrest, because then that minor girl should also not face the consequences of what her parents have done. So I believe the cops are giving the woman some time to kind of ensure that she's put the girl in safe hands, and then they will place her under arrest. So initially the police was also worried whether there is any sexual exploitation or things like that which were involved. Luckily, they did a medical test and nothing like that has happened. So they will accordingly, based on the investigation, the FIR is registered. Right now, they've arrested them on charges of human trafficking, on charges of kidnapping and things like that. Eventually, after 2-3 months, they'll be charge sheeting the parents, and then the matter will go to court. In the meantime, the man will be behind bars, and very soon they will be arresting the woman as well.
Now, even before the police could reach Bhosale, Smita says that she was glad that she was actually the first person to call him and tell him that Pooja had been found.
What was interesting is neither did I take Pooja's name or neither did he take Pooja's name, and we both knew who we are talking about. And there was a long pause and he wouldn't speak. So I knew that this has hit him hard, and I gave him his time. And I think after a while he just said, very policeman-like, let me call myself, let me confirm it myself. And then the phone line just got disconnected. There were no buys or anything.
Though after a while, he called her back. And Smita says she instantly knew that he was crying. And so it was hard to make out what he was saying.
And it's after a whole minute, when he had sort of composed himself, I understood that the words that he said were, "It's a happy, happy day." And he was going on repeating it because he was crying. And he didn't know whether I could understand that it's a happy, happy day. And that's it. That is how it ended.
In the end, we asked both Smita and Mohammed what about the story will really stay with them. Mohammed said that for him, it's how Pooja was found just 500 meters away from her home.
It's just bizarre, I've never heard of such a thing happening, and the fact that she was right there, right through, and that is in a sense one place that you will after a point not look at thinking, boss, yahan to nahi hoga, so it's in a sense in the perfect place that she could be hidden. And the bit about Bhosale, about a cop who, because I've hardly seen any cop who after, even when you're working, I can still understand. But after being retired, 6 years, 1 year, 2 years, after that you kind of get on with your life. But for 6 years to be doggedly pursuing that after retirement is something that I have never heard of, And, generally when one thinks of cops and you think, okay, you're scared to go to the police station and they're going to corrupt. And to a large extent, it is true. But, that's the thing. A lot of senior cops I have spoken to, they've said that, see, there must be more maybe bad apples in the force, in the sense that because of the unbridled power you have or any government department. But one also tends to discount that there are a lot of genuine good officers who are out there doing good work, and you also have to understand that these are guys who are day in and day out hearing crimes, hearing about murders, hearing about rapes. And it is, in a sense, unfortunately so easy to get numb to all of that, wherein you think that this is just one more case and, things like that. But to maintain your sensitivity, in spite of having people coming every day with issues, to still have that sensitivity, to still understand that here is a victim of a crime and here is a person who's really going through a tough time, and to have that thing is really something that, is difficult. But you have policemen who are out there who are doing a good job.
And when we asked Smita what about this story will stay with her, she said it's Bhosale's obsession and belief that Pooja would return.
And the fact that she returned just kind of confirms that his belief has been that strong. I believed in his belief. I did not have any hope, to be honest. But I really believed in him whenever he said that she'll be found. And there were days when he would cry. I'm not saying that he was the strongest of person. In fact, I feel that he has cried more than any other officer I know. So he would just pick up the call sometimes just to cry. So he has cried, but his belief was much stronger than the fear he had. And I truly respect that. I don't think there is any other way to explain this. It's just magical.
You were listening to Three Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.